Hi guys, welcome back to my read long channel. We are reading Candyfloss by Jacqueline Wilson. This is all her own work, just reading it for entertainment and pleasure. Today we are starting on chapter 21 and that is on page 297 and we are going to finish it on chapter 22. Oh, sorry, hiccup then. And that's on page 317. So without further ado, let's get going. Chapter 21. We had to go to hospital. I was completely fine, but they needed to check that I didn't inhale too much smoke. Dad had burns on his hands where he'd fought his way forward to grab me. They were both bandaged up so that it looked as if he was wearing white boxing gloves. Dad was very brave. He didn't even flinch when the nurse rubbed the ointment on, but I started crying. Hey, Floss, no tears, sweetheart. I'm fine. Look, I'm being wound up like an ancient Egyptian. Only I'm not a mummy, I'm a daddy. It wasn't really funny, but I sniffed a little and the nurse laughed out loud. Don't worry, dear, your dad's going to be as right as rain. He'll have to keep his bandages on for a bit, but he should heal up nicely. It'll be a good excuse for him to sit back and have your mum wait on him for a week or so. I said. I patted Dad's knee. I'll wait on you, Dad. You saved my life. You're a hero. Rubbish, pet. I didn't do anything, said Dad. Yes, you did, mate, said Saul, poking his head round the cubicle curtain. His arm was in a sling because one of the guys had tried to knife him. You saved me too, grabbing that punk by the wrist. He dropped his knife, he said. I wasn't really thinking straight. I just caught hold of him. And as luck would have it, that's when he dropped the knife, said Dad. No, your little girl's right. You're a hero, said Jenny, Saul's girlfriend. Saul had to take off all his huge silver skull rings and bangles, so she was wearing them for him, jangling and clanking every time she moved her arms. She stroked Saul's sore arm tenderly. It's only a flesh wound, but it could have been far worse, she said. Dad and Saul had to give statements to a policeman, though I kept dozing off while they were talking because it was the middle of the night now. I cuddled Dimple and Ellerina, who were a little singed but safe. Every time I went to sleep, I heard the ugly raised voices. I felt thuds, the shaking. I saw the sudden gold-red flare of flame and started crying. Each time Dad held me in his arms, patting me with big bandaged hands, soothing me. Come on, I've got to get my little girl home, said Dad, and eventually they let us go. We had no way of getting back from the hospital, and Dad didn't have much cash on him. But Saul and Jenny were waiting and they shared a taxi with us, taking us all the way to Billy the Chip's house for nothing. If you'd like to come back tomorrow, I'll give you the fare, said Dad. Think nothing of it, mate. Still, I might as well come back visiting, said Saul. They dropped us off and we staggered up the path to Billy's. I had to feel in Dad's pocket for the key and open the front door for us. Lucky and Whiskey and Soda were waiting worriedly in the hall, twining themselves round our ankles like fairy feather boas, wondering why we'd been out so late. Let's get straight to bed, little Floss, said Dad. It's all right now, baby. We're safe and sound. But as he said it suddenly started shaking. Oh, Floss, I can't believe how stupid I've been dragging you off to that van night after night. You could have been burned to a crisp, and it would have been all my fault. No, Dad, it wasn't your fault, silly. You rescued me. I'm fine. We're both fine, I said, putting my arms around Dad and hugging him tight. Dad cried a little bit while I patted him on the back. Then his nose started running and he couldn't blow it properly with his poor bandaged hands, so I had to help him. It's like you're my big baby, Dad, I said. I had to help him undo his buttons and shoelaces so he could get ready for bed. When I was in bed myself, Dad lay down at the end of it with his pillow and blanket so that every time I dreamed about the fire and woke up, he could soothe me back to sleep. He said I could stay off school in the morning. We didn't set the alarm, but we both woke up very early, even so. We had to have a special long cuddle just to make sure we were both all right. I'll have to phone poor Billy and tell him what's happened to his van, said Dad, sighing. Goodness knows how he's going to react. That old chip van has been in his family for so many years. I feel so bad it'd probably break his heart. It seems so cruel to interrupt his holiday and tell him, but I'm worried the police will have to contact him at some stage, so I'd better let him know first. I carefully made Dad a cup of tea, and he managed to balance it between his bandages and sip from it. Then he dictated to Billy's son's phone number, and I dialed it for him. Dad got through straight away, but I couldn't get a word in edgeways at first. Billy the Chip was burbling away on the other end, telling Dad Sydney was wonderful, his son was wonderful, his son's wine bar was wonderful, the weather was wonderful, and Dad had to listen with an agonised expression, trying to wade in his wave after wave of wonder. I'm so glad you're enjoying yourself, Billy, mate, but I'm afraid I've got some bad news, Dad blurted out eventually. Last night there was a bit of a ruckus with some yobs. They were trying to tip the fan over, and the fat in the fryer caught fire. I'm afraid the fan's been burned, Billy. What? No, I'm fine. Hand's got a bit singed, that's all. Thank God Floss is fine too, but I'm not quite sure we're going to get the fan back into action. Have you got proper insurance? Oh, thank God, because truthfully, mate, it's a total write-off. But you can get the insurance sorted when you're back from Oz, and then I'll help you buy a new fan, get the business up and running again. Though I'll have to make some kind of arrangement for Floss. I'm not risking her in a fan at night now. What's that? Really, you truly mean that, Billy? Dad listened. He nodded. He shook his head. He blew his breath out, his lower lip jutting. Yeah, thanks, mate, but you don't have to. No, we'll be moving on soon anyway. Definitely. Well, no actual concrete plans, but something's bound to pop up out of the blue. Okay then, you enjoy yourself, pal. Go for it. Bye then. Dad put the phone down. He rolled his eyes at me. He says he wants to stay in Australia and help his son with his bar. It's a boys-only bar too, not really Billy's sort of place at all. But he says he's enjoying being with his son. He wants to stick by him. I don't know whether it will work out in the long term, but he seems sure it will. That's what he wants. He's intent on giving up the chip van, whatever happens. He says he's thinking of putting this house on the market too, though we can stay in it for the long time being. Dad made a scratch to his head and ended up patting it with some bandages. Strikes me in the world gone bonkers, Floss. Still, I suppose we should be happy for Billy. He raised his mug of tea unsteadily. Here's to Billy the Chip, here's to Billy the Chip, I repeated, and Lucky and Whiskey and Soda meowed. Hey, Dad, what about his cat? Well, he says we can find a good home for them. He's thinking of having some firm pack up some of his stuff and ship it to Australia, but he can hardly do that old whiskey and soda. I doubt they'd last the journey. Well, are we a good home, Dad? I asked. We haven't got a good home for us, pet, let alone Billy's manky old cats. Us meaning you, me and Lucky. Us three, absolutely, said Dad. I made Dad and me some toast and fed all three cats. I felt a bit weird not going to school. I was worried about Susan stuck in our classroom in front of Rhiannon without me. Maybe I'll go into school after all, Dad, if you feel you can cope okay. Are you sure, Floss? You're probably still in a state of shock. I know I am. Yes, but you're wounded, Dad, I said, very gently stroking his bandages. I can't drive you at the moment, but I'll walk you there if you like, said Dad. I've got to go and sort out what's happening to the chip van anyway, and I've got to buy something too, a mobile phone. Then I feel I can always summon help straight away if we're in any more bother. I haven't much idea what they cost, and we'd better hang on to every penny now the chip van business is up the creek. But I thought about selling something. Not that I've got much left to sell. Admittedly, I wondered about the cuckoo clock. I know it doesn't go anymore, but it's quite old and the carving's nice. I could take it into that antique place and see what they offer me. But it's your wedding present, Dad. Yes, I know, but your mum never really liked it, and now, well, your mum and I aren't married anymore, are we? I swallowed. Sometimes I wish you and Mum were still married, Dad, I said. I know, Pet, sometimes I wish that too. But your mum's moved on now, literally. Maybe it's time I did too. You won't mind too much if we get rid of the cuckoo clock, will you? I'd much sooner have a mobile, Dad. Can it be half mine too? Hey, Rhiannon hasn't got her own mobile phone yet. It'll be so cool. We wrapped up the cuckoo clock in newspaper and Dad put back his backpack. There was a specialist clock man in the antique centre. He sniffed at our clock a bit, but admitted it was a Victorian and hand-carved. He didn't offer that much at first, but Dad argued and eventually he gave him £100. Well, Dad, we're rolling in it now, I said. Not really rolling in it, Floss, said Dad, but we certainly had enough to buy our mobile phone. Then we went to the station to have a look at the chip van. It had been towed back to the shed where Billy always kept it. We peered in at it in silence. It was a black all over with half the roof actually burnt off. Dad wound his arms round me tightly and we stood for a few seconds and then crept away again. I feel like I've let Billy down, I said, Dad, mournfully. But he doesn't want his chip van anymore, Dad. He said so. He might change his mind. Still, I suppose he can always buy a brand new van with his insurance money. We trudged on past the station. I knew where we were going now. Dad looked at me quizzically. I nodded. And it wasn't worth walking all around the moon when the direct way to school was past our cafe. Harley's Cafe didn't exist anymore. It was now a Starbucks. Dad stood staring at the smart green paintwork. He stepped up to the window and looked in, past the orange lamps and all the way the people standing at the counter and sitting at every single table and chair and sofa. He waved and stood still and sighed softly. Then he suddenly waved. "Look who's in there," he said. "It's old Ron and Miss Davies. Look, they're sitting at the same table and getting on like a house on fire, as far as I can see. Let's embarrass them terribly and go and say hello." We went into the cafe. It was just like stepping into a coffee bar anywhere. I looked up at the ceiling, wondering what was there now. The girl cleaning the table looked up as if worried I'd spotted a leak. "Yes," she said uncertainly. "Who lives up there?" I asked. "No one. It's just an office and a storeroom," she said. "It isn't a flat anymore." "I think it was once," she said, "like it was 100 years ago. But it was in a terrible state. Goodness knows who lived there." I glanced nervously at Dad, who was thankfully in deep conversation with old Ron and Miss Davis, gesturing theatrically with his bandaged hand. They were gasping appreciatively. "Excuse me," I said to the girl. I ran over to join my dad. Old Ron and Mrs. Davies were an extremely satisfying audience. They also said how much they missed Charlie's Cafe. "I'm on my old beam ends, my drinking Starbucks coffee," said Ron. "Talk about pricey." I didn't know what his bean was and where it ended, but I got the gist of what he was saying, and Mr. Starbucks doesn't have a clue when it comes to making a good plain cup of tea from a nicely warmed pot, Mrs. Davies sighing. "Well, as soon as my bandages are up, I'll make you as many cups of tea and coffee as you can manage at my place," said Dad, but when he bit his lip, "Well, Billy's place, whatever. Is he really going to sell up?" said old Ron. "So he says. Hey, Ron, if push come to shove, you wouldn't take on his old cats, would you? Whiskey and soda. Two very nice old lady friends." "Well," said Ron, "in a general run of things, I might say yes, but now I've got all this very nice old lady friend who isn't at all keen on cats." He nudged Mrs. Davies in the ribs. She glared at him. "Utter nonsense, and watch what you're doing. I bruise easily," she said, but she wasn't really cross. She leaned across the table at me. "Do they catch birds?" "Oh no, Mrs. Davies, never in a million years. They can't catch anything. They're far too lazy and plump. They don't even crunch up their cat food properly. They just suck all of the juice out of the fishy chunks. But they're really lovely, kind cats. They've tried to be very motherly to my cat Lucky. I'm sure you'd like them if you met them." "Well, if there's really no other alternative, I won't object if Ronald wants to give the creatures a proper home for their twilight years," said Miss Davis. "Old Ron and Miss Davis seem to be taking care of their twilight years," said Dad, as we continued our long rambling walk to school. "Fancy all those years coming into my cafe and then they barely spoke to each other. And then there's Billy the Chip, so stuck in his ways he did the same thing every single day of his life, and yet now he's up to sticks and gone swanning around to Australia. Your mum too, of course," Dad sighed. "They all moved on. I've stayed stuck. No, I haven't even done that. I've got started going backwards. One moment I've got a wife, a child, my business, and then the next, poof." But Dad was smiling at me. "I've still got the most important little person in my life. That's all that matters. Come on then, Floss, let's get you to school. You're astronomically late. I hope you won't get a telling off. Do you want me to come with you and explain?" I didn't think this was a good idea at all. "I'll be fine, Dad, really," I said. "Well, if you're sure, sweetheart. Schools do give me the heebie-jeebies. I always feel like I'm going to be told to stand in the corner with my hands on my head. What's your Mrs. Horsford like, Floss? Bit of an old bag?" "She's lovely, Dad. When we approached the school, I saw my class was out of the playground doing PE. My class with Mrs. Horsfield in their pretty white top and shorts, showing all the class how to jog on the spot. "My goodness, is she a teacher?" Dad whispered. "She's Mrs. Horsfield, Dad," said my teacher. "See, I told you she was lovely," I said. "I'll say, you're a lucky girl, Floss," said Dad. "Okay then, pet, you run and join your friends. I'll come and collect you at going home time." I gave Dad a quick kiss and started racing towards the gate into school. Dad waved with his big bandaged hand, and Mrs. Horsfield slowed to a standstill, panting a little. "Floss, is that your father, Mr. Barnes?" "Uh-oh," said Dad. "Looks as if I'm in trouble after all." He walked along by my side, his arms dangling. Everyone stopped jogging and stood still, staring, everyone except Susan. She came flying across the playground and met me at the school gate. She flung her arms around me and gave me a great big hug. "Hello, Susan," said Dad. "I know you two are best friends, but do you always greet each other with such gusto?" No, Mr. Barnes, I'm just so relieved to see Floss. I thought something awful had happened to her. One of the girls in our class said there had been a fire in the chip van, and I was so scared you'd both been burned." "Oh, but you have been burned, Mr. Barnes. Look at your poor hands." "They're fine, dear. I've just got the bandages on to keep them nice and clean. The nurse says they'll clear up completely in a week or so." "Oh, so you've got first-degree burns, thank goodness," said Susan, knowledgeable as always. Mrs. Horsfield came right over us. "Okay, Susan, you get back in line, dear," she said. "Are you sure you're all right, Floss? There have been all sorts of terrible rumours running around the school. I tried phoning, but your telephone number seems to be out of order, Mr. Barnes." "Oh dear, that would be the old number. Yes, silly of me not to have let you know. I'll give you the school my mobile number. We're temporarily staying at a friend's house, but I expect we're moving on soon during the school holidays. Flora's had to cope with quite a few changes recently," Mrs. Horsfield said quietly, carefully that the others shouldn't hear. "Yes, I'm afraid she has, but she's been a little star," said Dad. "She's such a good girl, my Floss. She might not always be up to speed with her lessons, but I think she's a bit of a dreamer, like her old dad. But I know she tries really hard, Mrs. Horsfield." "I know she does," said Mrs. Horsfield. "Mr. Barnes, you do know you can come in to see me any day after school. I always stay in the classroom for a good half an hour or so. If there's anything you want to discuss, any problems, any advice, well, that's what I'm here for." "Thank you," said Dad. "I wish I had a smashing teacher like you when I was at school." "Dad," I hissed. Dad laughed at me and pretending to punch the tip of my chin with his bandaged fist. "Am I embarrassing you, darling? That's what Dad's for," he said. "I'll come and meet you after school, okay?" He backed off across the playground when Mrs. Horsfield blew her whistle and got everyone to start jogging again. Dad started jogging too, arms pumping, feet pounding. We could see his head bobbing up and down all the length of the school fence. Susan laughed fondly. So did some of the others. Rhiannon and Margot and Judy laughed too, but they were standing with their hands on their hips, eyebrows raised. "Look at Smelly Belly Chip," said Rhiannon. "Like who does he think he is?" said Margot. "He's so fat. See his big bum? Smelly Belly Waggle Bum," said Judy. They all laughed harder. I hated all three of them. When Mrs. Horsfield told us to start running properly, I forged ahead, kicked Rhiannon right on her own bum, and then Margot, and then Judy, kick, 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 like a soccer star. Then I charged out of their way before they could get me back. I couldn't keep out of their way forever. I couldn't keep out of anyone's way at break time. Everyone crowded round me in the cloakroom, wanting to hear about the fire. The story had spread rapidly, and I had become wildly exaggerated. Dad and I had been besieged by thousands of yobs who had deliberately set the fan on fire with us inside. No, it wasn't like that at all," I said. "So what was it like? Tell us, Floss." "Yeah, come on, Floss, tell." So I started telling the whole story myself, and as I got into it, I couldn't help doing a little exaggerating myself. I had Dad leaping out of the fan, knocking knives out of the guys' hands, kung fu style. I demonstrated enthusiastically. I had Dad snatching Sol from a serious stabbing, protecting his girlfriend, bashing all the yobs and sending them flying. "Oh wow, Floss, your Dad's fantastic. That's so cool. Did he really beat them all off?" "Of course he didn't," said Rhiannon. "Old Smelly Belly Chip Bum couldn't bash so much as a baked potato." "You're telling whopping great lies, Floss." "I am not. Well, he might not have hit them all, and maybe there was just one knife, but I can tell you something, and I swear this is true. When the fire caught fire in the fan, I was trapped, and I would have burned to death there and then if Dad hadn't braved the flames and fought his way over to me and carried me out," I said. "Your Dad's truly heroic, Floss," Susan proclaimed. "Yes, isn't he?" I agreed proudly. "Rubbish," said Rhiannon. "Yeah, like totally gross," said Margot. Judy didn't say anything, but she made a very rude noise. "Take no notice of them, Floss," said Susan. "They're just jealous of your lovely Dad." "Jealous?" said Rhiannon. "My Dad earns $50,000 a year in his car business, and he's always buying me heaps of stuff and taking us on fantastic holidays. And people say he looks very like Tom Cruise. Plus he doesn't smell. So why should I be jealous, Swatty Potty?" Floss's dad loves her tremendously and talks to her as if she's his special friend, and plays with her heaps and does funny things to make her laugh and takes good care of her," said Susan. I squeezed Susan's hand so moved I could barely speak. Rhiannon still sneered. takes good care of her. You must be joking. My mum says it's appalling. She's thinking about going to social services and reporting Floss. What? I said. You heard me. Or if you didn't, wash your ears out and wash the rest of you too. You don't stink so much, smelly chip, said Rhiannon. Your mum isn't really going to social services about me, is she, Rhiannon? I said. Yes, because she's truly worried about you. First your mum walked out on you. She didn't. You know she didn't. And now your dad's cafe's gone bust and you haven't got a proper home anymore and you look a sight and you smell. And now it seems your dad's dragging you off to his chip van every night and getting into fights and you nearly end up getting burned to death. Your very own words, smelly chip. My mum says you need some kind of lady to look after you properly. So you wait, the social service will come and get you and put you in care if you don't watch out. And that is the end of chapter 21, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you're enjoying the story. Until the next time, guys, goodbye.